Hey, welcome into another edition of Chalk Talk from the Denver Pioneers. As in the middle of October, we are hitting the stretch run, as difficult as that is to believe in Pioneer women's volleyball. We're just a few weeks away now from the Summit League tournament. I guess a little bit over a month, but thrilled to be joined by Pioneers head volleyball coach Tom Hogan. Tom, it's so good to see you. It's been a while. I said when we kind of connected on the Zoom call, I haven't been down actually to get a chance to see you and your team in action now in 2 years because of the world that we have lived in. But it's great to see. And obviously the season, the early returns have been good now, and the middle of the season returns. Just kind of give me the lowdown of how this year has felt getting started and now in the middle of the season compared to where we were this time last year, and with everything that went on with fall sports and maneuvering schedules and all of that. I would imagine this feels much more normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Tyler, for having me. Yeah, it's last fall was definitely a whirlwind, but we were fortunate enough to have a season. So we're actually having 2 seasons in one calendar year. So our last season was only a couple months away. We had a winter and spring season, and now we're right back at it. So we had a couple months off, and now we're back into our normal fall season calendar. And so it's been really tough, having 2 seasons in 1 year. One college season in 1 year is tough enough, but imagine packing 2 of those in and then throw all of the COVID protocol and testing and everything on top of it. But I'm really proud of the way the players and staff have responded to that challenge. We're in the same situation as every NCAA team, but it's been pretty tough, just mentally, physically, emotionally. But I think the team has handled it really well.
That's the thing that I was going to ask you. When you go through such a quick turnaround from finishing a season in the spring, and then all of a sudden, it feels like you probably had 15 minutes to breathe, and you're getting set and you're getting practices in and you're getting ready for this new season. You kick things off back in late August. What was the biggest challenge to get a team ready to go again? I would think from the mental and, kind of the emotional preparation standpoint, maybe it's a little bit easier because you were just in that mode, but physically it's got to be really tough to recover from a season. What was most challenging and what was most rewarding about being able to turn around so quickly?
Yeah, I think in terms of the challenging aspect, what we decided on, you're exactly right. Physically, it was going to be really challenging. So I encouraged our players just to get out of the volleyball mode for the entire month of June. So after our season was over, we had a little bit of light training in terms of weight training and stuff like that. But I just encouraged them to get out of Denver if they could, get out of the gym and really take that whole month off. So the team kind of came back in and got back into the weight room around July. We had a couple open gyms, but really just taking this slowly. Is the thing, a lot of coaches, maybe get anxiety and they're like, oh, we need to be better at this. We need to be doing this right now. And I just think it's more of a marathon rather than a sprint, especially this year. You really have to focus on going slow and taking care of our players' bodies, their minds, and everything like that. Where, you can't just hop right into it thinking it's a normal situation, because it's not. It's anything like that, because we just did 3 to 4 months of this, at the beginning of this year. So you can't push your players too much. And if you do, you're going to have burnout. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have a lot of issues. So we've made sure that we've taken it nice and slow.
Well, what's been probably most impressive about that for your team is this start to the season. Like I said, it's not even really something that you can call a start anymore. You're 16 matches in now at 14-2. This 2021 edition of the Pioneers, you've always got such a talented group. You've got a team that is always at or right next to the top in the Summit League. But for this season, for everything that everybody went through last year, for coming in, like you said, on such a short turnaround, what's been the most impressive thing about your group this year in the way they've gotten into this season, the way they've hit their stride now here in October?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just their mindset. We're very fortunate to have a really good core of leaders that have a lot of experience. So I think that's really filtered down to the rest of the team. But they're just their mindset. They're taking it one day at a time, as cliche as that sounds. But they're just able to handle the situation really well. And so by leading by example, they're kind of bringing the rest of the team with them. We were fortunate enough to bring back Ellie Anderson, Tina Bow, Lydia Bartolo, just players that have been within our program for 4 years and now their 5th year. So just having them kind of pave the way, and they happen to be our team captains as well. So they're just setting a really good example of how to approach it day by day. And I think with that leadership, that's what has kind of brought up upon the success.
This is such a unique year across all college sports because, like you mentioned, you get some players who are that veteran presence and get to be around maybe for a little bit longer than, certainly we all would have anticipated this time 4 or 5 years ago. What does that do for you as a head coach and for your staff that you have a core group of veterans who have been there, who understand the culture, understand what you're trying to do every day, whether it's in practice or match preparation or whatever it is? It's so weird, but I would imagine this is one of the few kind of good weird things out of the last few years is you get some extra time with players like that.
Absolutely. And they get to have an experience maybe they missed out on last year, having a season that was somewhat cut short, or compacted, I should say. And this last season was just weird. We had to have this really strict protocol where we're on the road and we're locked in our hotel rooms, where we're testing 3 times a week. There's just a lot going on. So just to be able to give them somewhat of a more normal situation where there's fans in the stands, where we get to travel outside of our conference, it's been really special. And I'm glad we've gotten to kind of share that experience with them.
What has the fan involvement been like this year, to have been without that, to be in such a strictly protocoled situation last year? It's one of my favorite things, getting to talk to people in sports now about what it's like having people back in the building. I know David Carl last week before our first hockey telecast this season on Altitude, he said it's a bigger emotional jump going from no fans back to fans than it was going from fans to an empty building. For your team, what has it been like being able to experience that again?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what DC said. Because every day you practice without fans. So you're used to that environment, right? So going from fans to no fans, it wasn't that really big of a deal. It kind of felt like a practice environment, even when you were competing against teams. But going back to fans is kind of funny. One of our first matches was against a packed house at USC at the Galen Center. And it was so loud, the building was shaking. There were thousands of people there. I was a little nervous as soon as, they were announcing, the players and everyone. I was just like, wow, this environment is incredible. So it was a little bit abnormal. It felt very weird. But then as soon as we settled in, we actually used it to our advantage. It was a lot of fun. We were like, this is why we play. This environment, this is why we play. And that stage was so cool. And so I think we made the transition in a 5-set match at USC. And then since then, we've never looked back. It's been good.
That was an unbeaten run, by the way, through the Trojan Invitational for the Pioneers, who finished 3-0 with wins over CSUN, USC, and the Campbell Camels, one of the best names in college athletics. And Tom, for your team now, being in Summit League play, this is a swath that you guys are so familiar with over the last several years and the dominant run of Denver volleyball through Summit League play. But, there are some matches here and there that jump up and bite every team. And you were able to respond, took a loss to Omaha, but you come back. You've only lost one of your last 7 sets now with wins over North Dakota and North Dakota State. And now you come home for a back-to-back swing against South Dakota State on Thursday the 14th and South Dakota on the 16th. 2 other very quality and strong opponents. This weekend, to get those 2 on a Thursday and a Saturday, how does this stack up, and how excited is your team to have the opportunity to now come home in a big, crucial stretch of the season and get these 2 big matches in at home in Hamilton?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a tough 2 weeks on the road against a lot of really good teams. And I think this is the most stacked by far the Summit League has ever been. There are just a number of teams that could possibly win the Summit League. And like you mentioned, we were able to bring some people back, but all the other teams in our league were able to bring back their seniors as well. So it's almost like we're just playing the exact same season we did a couple months ago in terms of roster and personnel. So, you have South Dakota, you have Omaha, Kansas City, Oral Roberts is jumping up. You just have a lot of talented teams. And this weekend is no different. South Dakota State is off to their best start since we've been a part of the Summit League. They're 12-6, and they're looking really impressive. Their coach Dan has them looking better than I've ever seen them before. So they're a really dangerous team. and then our old foes, South Dakota. We haven't played them since we played them in the championship match, which was a really epic match. One of the best volleyball matches I've ever been a part of. Unfortunately, on the losing end in 5 sets, but it was a really high level match and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so this weekend's matches, Thursday and Saturday, are going to be incredible. They really are. But all of our matches are incredible. I think anyone can beat anyone on any given night in the Summit League. This is by far the most talented this league has ever been, and you can see that in a lot of wins pre-conference. So out of conference, that all these teams have been able to have, us included. But Omaha had some really good wins as well. South Dakota did too. Kansas City, Oral Roberts. Everyone has had really quality wins against Power 5 conferences or conferences with a lot of historical success. So it's really exciting. But again, I think that, maybe possibly the winner of this conference could have 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 losses. So it's going to be, a really good fight for that regular season championship.
All right, Tom, final point for you. To be at this stretch of the season now in mid-October, and like I said, not even a month and a half away from the Summit League tournament right now. We'll talk as the season goes along. We'll have a couple more of these conversations. But for where your team is right now, what excites you most about their mentality, their mindset, being in mid-October, off to the run that they're on, and the position where they are in the conference with all these good opponents coming up? What excites you most about your group right now?
Yeah, I think we really control our destiny. We've had a lot of success so far, and so we've put ourselves in a really good position. But I think just in our last match against North Dakota, we showed our true potential in some of the sets that I've never seen from any Denver program before. And so, that we played them and we beat them in 4 sets, but the middle 2 sets were probably the best sets I've ever seen a Denver program play. So we showed our true potential. Now it's just building that consistency. So we're able to do that for a full match rather than just a set. But, watching our team play, I was just amazed. I mean, we were at a higher level than we were at during last season. So it was really exciting. Now we just have to figure out how to put the pieces together so we can be consistent for a full match and then for a full week and then, for a full tournament at the end of the season.
Well, that is exciting stuff for Denver volleyball fans going forward, of course, as the Pioneers will be back home tomorrow night. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 13th. So on Thursday, the 14th against South Dakota State, Saturday, the 16th against South Dakota. And he is the head coach of the Pioneers, Tom Hogan. Tom, best of luck against the Jackrabbits and the Coyotes. And we'll be talking to you here in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Wrapping up this edition of Chalk Talk from the Denver Pioneers. We'll talk to you next time.